Okay, so here is the fun of how to paint the trees. You take a canvas. Now this happens to be a repurposed one, so you can see the glitter flowers that were there before. Those might stay, those might get palette knifed off. We don't know yet, but for now they're there. I just painted colors, just blitzed colors right over this. Let it dry. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna just take masking tape, and different sizes is what I like. Some people use all one size, but we're going to just, I like my smaller trees to be in the center because then it gives the illusion of them being far away. You see that this isn't straight, nor will they be. Whoops. Nor will they be. On purpose, and I just wrap it around the top of the frame some too. Now what happens is the colors that are in the background, they won't really look like this, but they will give some flavor and some color to our painting. So you see I'm crossing trees right over because when you look through a forest, you don't see just tall, straight trees. You see layers and layers of trees. And sometimes that means they look crossed over. So that's what we're doing here. And I just put several strands, and you can do this on a tiny canvas, you can do this on a giant canvas, however you want. I can come back and do more of this later if I choose, but I'm going to come in with my next layer, which is a little bit thicker, and same thing. Now, not all the trees are in the distance, right? There are some that are closer up, so these are going to represent those that are closer to us. I like to keep some definition between the trees because then when I come on to paint after I pull the tape off, because that's what's going to leave our trees behind, then I will have some definition for where the trees occur. So yes, there's some overlap. Yes, there's some crisscrossing, but it's very forgiving. And you'll see there, I didn't give that guy a bottom. It's okay. No big deal. I'm leaving this center open because I'm thinking that I might do a path on this one. I didn't do a path on the last one, but I kind of like the pictures I see that are paths. So that would require me then to come in with some skinnier trees. That begin up the path, right? And I get to determine whether I'm doing this or not in the end. I don't know. But let's just go ahead and prepare for it. I've never done it before, so I don't know whether I'll like it, but you get to be along for the ride. So what I like to do is be sure that everything gets good and adhered, because I'm going to come paint over this once we're done. And then my final size here, the larger size. And I'll start over here at the edge of the canvas. I don't want all of the edge to be covered. Again, trying to kind of bend the tape as I put it on. And overlap the sizes a little. More trees is more better, right? Some more small guys here. Crisscross those little. Yeah, it's looking a little bit too straight there, isn't it? Let's crisscross you some. Fill that gap in. What do you think? Maybe one through here. Right there, like that. What do you think? Doesn't look symmetric, doesn't look perfect, doesn't need to. That's good and adhered there. And then I just have a variety of colors here. And what we're gonna do is just wash over the whole thing. So I literally use my favorite giant brushes. And I'm going to create kind of a landscape line here that'll then kind of wind into the path. And I'm just gonna do that by blending yellow and turquoise together because I don't have green on my palette right now. Not a green that I want to have be in this front. I'm going to try not to be too watered down. I'm going to add some blue to that and see if I can't get more of a green. There we go. I'm a fan of blending right here on the canvas, and if it gets too dark, you just come in with some lighter color here, white. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this turquoise up top. And paint right over that background I painted yesterday. And I don't really need that background to appear through because when I peel the tape off, it'll be there. I'm going to kind of give it the curve of the horizon here. Do the other side. And I'm going to take the yellow through about the center of the canvas here. Knowing what I know, that yellow isn't going to show up as itself without the titanium white base. So let me just go ahead and I'm going through that glitter phase here, stage on the canvas. So it's a little tougher in those areas. But that's okay. It just all becomes part of the canvas, literally. Canvas of our life. sometimes has these bumps too, right? We just work through them. And I don't know about you, but when that yellow is peeping over the horizon, when I've seen it, you've already seen these brilliant, beautiful oranges and hot pinks. So we're gonna add some of that. And I'm just mixing it on my brush, yellow and red, and scooching it around. Primary red, medium yellow, scooching it around. And I'm just doing red and white. And because I've done the orange before, it kind of has that, oops, I just got more yellow on it. I don't want yellow, I just want red and white. But because it has some of that yellow, it kind of becomes this pretty coral. In the end, I don't want to see brush strokes. I just want to see fadings of color from one to another. So just doing this a little liberally and loosely. And I just want to pick up white and blue and kind of fade this color down. I'm going to go up to the top around these edges and purple that space in, because before the sun comes up here, you've still got purple edges to the sky. Again, I don't want brush strokes, I'm just blending colors from side to side. And I'm going to have more of a defined line go as we go here, up, blending. So there's our background. Now comes the magic when we peel our tape down. Some of our pieces make it to come off real easy. Doesn't look like trees yet, does it? It will. You know, that inner critic gets in there and says, you better hope it does. You better be glad you're not doing this on live, but it will. Because you know what? There are no mistakes, except the tape won't come off my hand. No mistakes in paint, right? You can do it over. If you don't like the way this came out, you can do it over. So if you're working with kids on this, ensure them there are no mistakes. They can do it over. This can just be a base layer. Remember when we did the freedom layer? This could be their freedom layer, where they're learning how to get in touch with their inner critic. So you can clearly see how our base layers are still there. I try to do it while the paint is still a little bit wet, because the result is that when we paint the trees on, they kind of take on the colors that are still wet on the frame, as well as mirror through those other colors for us. You can kind of start to see the forest of the trees there. Ba-dum-bum. Okay, now for the next step, as soon as I get the rest of this tape off, we're just going to need white paint and my Payne's gray paint. Okay, I think we've got most of it, if not all of it. Because remember, we left that center there to be a path. And if we need to have fallen trees, we can have fallen trees. Okay, so you can kind of see our sunrise, sunset there. All we need is the white, titanium white. And you know what? Yeah, well, titanium white. And I'll use that pretty liberally. And then the Payne's gray. And it's just for accents. And then all I use is a flat brush and a fresh water. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to get a little bit of that white paint, and I'm going to pick a tree. And I'm going to start just, the tree is yesterday's background, not today's. If you draw over today's, you just drag it down. You can take it and drag down like this too, it doesn't matter. We're just going to start defining our tree. And the beautiful thing about birch trees is that they have all kinds of variation in them. So we want to have not a solid ground for a tree. We want it to be a little bit sideways, if you will. So right in here, this natural place, I'm just going to drag a little bit of bark through there. And I'm just going to go back and forth between my white brush and my black brush. And I'm just going to drag that color through. And pick the next tree and do the same thing. See there, I got on the sunrise, sunset. I'm just going to draw it off. And if I don't, oh well. There are no mistakes. If you're doing this with kids, you probably want your trees to be a lot more sparse. Space them out some so that they have room to come in and draw their bark on. Now, do you see how just drawing over that background is already adding dimension to these trees? I don't really even have to come back on with that black. I do just because I want it to be defined. Now this is another tree, so I'm going to turn my brush sideways just to pick up the definition there. Here's another tree that's coming down. You can use your brush all kinds of ways. You can also get a different brush. And don't worry about your hand being steady. It doesn't need to be, because birch trees aren't straight. No tree is straight. See how I got it on that blue line? No big deal. And you can see how here, because that orange is still wet, it picked up the color of the orange. And it kind of picked up the color of the green down there, which makes it look like it's reflecting the sunset, sunrise, sky ground, whatever you have going. If it gets to the point that you're picking up too much paint, come back up and go where the paint is mostly dry and then drag back down. You can always come back and paint that over. No mistakes in painting because we're just playing. Are there ever mistakes in playing? Sure. But you can fix those mistakes easily by doing something different, going about it a different way. So we're playing here just to create, as Bob Ross would say, you know I have to say it, right? Happy little trees. Because that's what we're making here. Happy little trees. I hope those of you who fast forward through just to see this don't miss out on too many of my jokes. I mean, come on. Dinner and a show here, right? Happy little trees. Now, I'm going to stop here on making long straight because I need to come back in and add some of my dimension, some of my sideways tree look. So I'm going to come in with the white and I'm going to wet it down here because I have too much on my brush. And I'm just going to drag the brush over like this. Trying to stay in the line of the trees, not the line of my sunrise, sunset. But a wet brush line will let you come back and go back over it again. But doing this helps create that dimension on the side of the tree. So we're coming in from the left here, and in a little while we'll come back from the right. And where we meet or don't meet in the middle, it helps create dimension on our tree. So I like to get these ones that go all the way down. Oops. While it's still wet so that if it's going to blend color, it can blend. Now what you can do, if you don't want this to dry yet, is you can just lightly mist this edge over here so that it doesn't fully dry. You don't want to wet it down so hard that it runs, but that will help us preserve until we get to it. Now you see I picked up someplace else, and that's okay because it'll be obvious what I did earlier in just a second. In a little while, maybe. When I come back to look at it. And those of you who wear bifocals, if you've got a good way to solve that problem for me, I'd love it. Otherwise, my neck gets cricked back to see these close-up little things. I have a great pair of glasses, I think I've shown you. It does take just a little bit of focus here. What I'm going to focus on is just finishing a couple of these trees up so that you can see what's going on, and then I will turn off the video and finish it and show you the finished product when it's done. But basically, all I'm doing is a little bit of Payne's Gray on the brush here and there. Sometimes I'll come from the other side with the Payne's Gray, but I've got our sunrise sunset straight up here. I don't have it coming from the side. Now you can see here, if you can see it, maybe you can't. Some of the places that it looks too harsh, you can come back and just brush it out. But you do want to have some of that appearance of the tree coming around, and you do that with a wet brush, not just a painty brush. It's a wet painty brush. So if I start getting it too thick, I'll wet my brush down again and come in and brush. I'm not trying to be perfect because I want my background to kind of speak through, to color the trees. I'm not trying to cover the trees. I'm just trying to define the trees by dragging this brush over that defined space of where the tree is. No big deal. Might define the line a little, brush that out some so that it doesn't look like bamboo. Wipe that out a little. I think that's a little heavy because my brush is too. More paint than water. I'm going to come back and pick that up in those spaces. Come from the other side. Same method. Okay, so you can see that starts to take the look of birch trees. And it's a little bit of a tedious process when you put that many trees on, but it's fun. And you can do a little bit each day if you choose to. Just think about if you want those colors, like you see here where the yellows are reflecting on the trees, you've got to do that when your paint is wet. So, hope you enjoyed. Hope this is something you choose to do with your family. I'll come back and show you the finished product.